Hey, Jack, we're wearing the same shirt.
Which you can buy on sale right now for 20% off.
These are really comfy.
They are very comfy. Apparently, it's comfy enough that your wife stole yours.
Yeah, she keeps doing that. Anyways, welcome here to another Codex reaction, and I'm here with Tack, Nick here, if you didn't know, and we are reviewing the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Mechanicus, yes.
Mechanicus in 10th edition. First of all, what is the Mechanicus? What is the Adeptus Mechanicus? What do they do?
The Mechanicus are from Mars, and they are the scientists, the technological arm. They're very, very interested in technology and in knowledge. So they kind of hunt down or run through the galaxy looking for knowledge.
They hoard knowledge. They're misers about knowledge. They don't really maybe advance the Imperium as much as they could. They like to stick to the old tried and true ways.
Yeah, unfortunately what it is right now is that they're exploring the universe to find knowledge simply to lock it away.
Yeah.
Like whatever is against the current tenets of the Imperium, which is why there's a Adeptus Mechanicus and why there is the Dark Mechanicus.
So in terms of the tabletop, Mechanicus, short and sweet, how do they play?
How do they play? The Mechanicus are traditionally a shooting army. In the last edition, they became more of a glass cannon shooting army. And that seems to continue into this edition. So we're dealing with, for their troops, a little bit lower toughness. They still shoot a lot, but the strange thing, or the big shift between the old edition to this edition is ballistic skill. Again, traditionally they were a shooting army with incredible access to being able to shoot straight and be accurate. And this edition, they're mostly hitting on 4s. Though the book does give you a lot more ways to augment that.
Cool. Well, let's get into it. So, before we go into the details of the book, overall impressions, you're feeling excited about it? Disappointed in it? Somewhere in the middle?
I hope there's a lot of players out there like me who actually enjoyed Rad Bombardment and kind of what the Index Admech could do. And there is a detachment obviously with the Rad Bombardment still there. I have always enjoyed the Doctrina imperatives, where you have to select something that your army does really well for a single turn.
Got it.
That's always been a lot of fun because it makes the game dynamic. Yes, you're bringing one list to the table, but turn to turn, you're able to kind of shift that list a little bit to do something very specific.
Cool.
So that's always been a lot of fun. And that is its army rule that is retained. You have the Protector imperative and you have the Conqueror imperative. One gives you assault weapons and extra AP if you're shooting into someone that's still in their opponent's zone. So that can be very punishing if you go first and you're kind of able to punch out really quickly, able to punish people that are still in their zone. And then there's the Protector imperative, which gives you -1 AP incoming if you're still in your own zone, and heavy on your army wide. That is one of the ways to get around this hitting on 4s, because with heavy you get +1, you're back to hitting on 3s.
That makes a lot of sense. That's really good for a shooting army.
Yeah. And while heavy can be a bit of a trap, as in you're not moving anymore, what Conqueror does with the assault weapons is you're able to move out really quickly. And hopefully what you're doing is you're going out, grabbing your objectives early game, and then you can switch on to heavy and just try to win the game by basically sticking where you landed and just being much more effective with the heavy in place.
The sponsor of this episode today is Baron of Dice. Baron of Dice produces amazing dice, and they are actually having a Black Friday sale right now. You get 20% off their entire selection. That includes our Play On dice. If you want a set of Play On dice, you can get that there, the orange or the gray dice, whichever tells most stories for you.
There is a promo code on their website that you can use, and that sale is on to the end of the month, end of November, and that's for 20% off.
Thank you, Baron of Dice, and thank you for sponsoring this episode. Now, you've played a couple games now with the Codex in 10th edition here, and with the new Codex, what are some standout units? What are some things like, this is different, this is cool, what do you like?
There is one build in here, I think it's the Explorer Maniple, that is almost a pseudo Oath of Moment. And so that detachment centers around pointing an objective and saying that's your acquisition of objective. And you get to, and yeah, right? So again, it's this ability to, you're not stuck with something at the beginning of the battle.
Yeah.
Where you're changing that every turn, the way that, when you see the need to. And what that acquisition objective does for you is allows you to reroll ones to wound.
Tactical flexibility.
Tactical flexibility. In army that actually does have access to a lot of rerolls. The Admech do have access to a lot of rerolls. They are typically centered around battle line units, but if you're rerolling to hit and rerolling to wound, you can really punish something that's on an objective. So Explorator Maniple was quite fun to play. Standout unit in there was the Breachers. And I think Breachers are just a standout unit overall.
Yeah.
They get 2 shots at 30-inch range, 4 shots at 15-inch range because they're rapid fire. They're strength 8, AP -2, flat 3 damage per shot. Yes, they're on a chassis that hits on 4s, but if they're beside a battle line unit, they're rerolling everything. Built into the chassis themselves is reroll 1. So even if they're on their own, they're rerolling 1 to hit.
So Breachers, once more, are really good.
They're very, very good.
Oh, I don't like facing them.
And in terms of survivability, which is kind of the problem with the glass cannon, obviously, if you put a dominance in with them, in the Explorator Maniple with one of the enhancements, you can give them a 4-up invuln. So now they're T7 with a 4-up invuln at 3 wounds each. The dominance also has a 5-up feel no pain to that unit. And all of a sudden, that unit is sticking around.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That's a tough unit.
But extremely expensive.
Okay.
Right? So that unit is quite a lot of points. When you stick in the or the dominance, obviously that's a lot more. And because it's locked to an enhancement, you can't do that across multiple units, which I really like.
Okay.
Right? You can have one kind of what we used to call Death Star.
Yeah.
But you're not able to just spam that army-wide.
Interesting. Yeah, when we've played before, the Breachers have been terrifying. The other guys that have also been pretty rough to fight against have been your Lancers here.
Dragoons.
Your Dragoons, yeah. So how are you feeling about them in the new codex here?
That was one where I kind of need to get used to it a little bit. The biggest problem being that they don't hit as hard because they are weapon skill 4. So they're not as accurate, and you're chasing 6s to try to proc sustain 2. What I love about them though is that they are stealth. They are pretty high toughness. They've got a decent amount of wounds, and I use them early game to simply trample forward and try to gain me some board control. They're cheap enough to be okay with kind of some early game first 2-3 turn losses, so long as I've got that board control, right? And they do punish. Oddly enough, they did retain the anti-walker 2. So they're very, very good at killing knights. But anti-walker, chasing around walker units is tricky in this edition. There isn't a lot with that keyword.
That's true. Aside from all of my battle suits.
Which, yeah, they run into your battle suits, you're wounding on 2s.
Now, we have to talk about this brand new unit in the Admech Codex. It's probably the coolest model I've ever seen. It's the guy on stilts. He's basically lopped off his legs, attached mechanical stilts to it.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't him that lopped off his legs.
Fair enough. I mean, they're always looking to make themselves more machine-like, right? And then he's got a big giant sniper rifle.
Yes, that.
Your favorite, right?
No.
You love him.
I get into armies because of the aesthetic.
Yeah.
And I've been playing Admech since the beginning, since the very, very first Skitarii Codex.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then they had this split between Skitarii and the Mechanicus.
And as a note, understanding the difference between Skitarii and cult Mechanicus does help you with the book. For instance, the army rule with the Doctrina imperatives, for the most part, are locked to Skitarii units outside of the Breachers and the Destroyers. But most other cult Mechanicus units actually don't get access to your army rule. And I felt like, I think my first game I made that mistake where I played it thinking the army rule was for the entire army. That's not the case. The Skatros is lone operative, and that does mean I can use them as a utility unit.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a small enough base, I can kind of go use them to zone out things, but I'm not happy with the design of it. It's not for me. I'm sure there's other people that would like it. It's not for me. And in terms of its rules, a single shot with a damage 3 weapon as a sniper just isn't punching hard enough to be effective on the battlefield.
So we played one major game on the channel against Michael with the new Necron codex.
We did.
That's coming out soon. We're trying to get it out as soon as we can to match the release window for the stuff. So look forward to that if you haven't seen it. If it hasn't come out already, that'll be a fun game. Now, coming from that, no spoilers, but how do you feel your army performed? Like, how are you feeling getting into the Admech and facing off against an opponent like the Necrons, who are typically quite strong?
Necrons are quite strong, and Necrons are in an army where you have to kill the unit outright. Yeah. You're not allowed. You should be leaving one or two of them left, because if you leave one or two, all of a sudden you've got 10. The Admech hit hard the way that I want them to. Experimental was the one I used, and just him chasing objectives, me able to point an objective and say, hey, that's the one I reroll against. That mechanic was a lot of fun, and punishing. The unfortunate part, a little bit of confession, my Admech are in disarray. Doesn't mean I love them any less, but they are an army that over the course of time, I've started to lose models. Models have been kind of destroyed and not repaired. And in the future, I really, really hope to paint some more units in, so I have access to some of the utility units. So for the time being, what you're seeing me play is these very heavy-hitting, aggressive armies that require me to out-attrition my opponent through destruction.
Yeah.
Where my typical playstyle is I like to do a little bit more utility, a little bit more objective chasing, a little bit more board control. This is not it.
So did you say your tickle playstyle?
My tickle playstyle?
Is that what you said?
Typical.
Oh, I said tickle playstyle. I was like, okay, so you laugh because it's happy, it's a good playstyle?
It tickles my fancy.
Okay,
I'm sure. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, cool.
My tickle my fancy playstyle is more of a tactical, strategic, board control, objective control.
Yeah. Now, last question. I think I'd love to know, was there anything in the codex that jumped out and surprised you when you were reading through it? Like, is anything that was like, oh, I never expected this?
What the codex gives you is a lot of different ways to play. So one of the surprising things was Cohort cybernetica, I got it right, Cohort cybernetica.
Nice.
So the Cohort cybernetica basically provides a buff to a cybernetica unit, which is only one.
It's just these robots.
Just these robots.
That's the only thing in the entire codex.
Yeah,
sure?
Yep. I read through it multiple times. So you would think, why the heck is there a detachment centered around a single unit? But then when you get into the stratagems, you realize that the stratagems are really, really good for vehicles. So that's your vehicle one. That's kind of like compared it to the Space Marine Ironstorm.
Okay.
And because I love vehicles, another one of my playstyles, I do have an aggressive playstyle, but that's usually centered around elites and vehicles. I now have that. So Cohort Cybernetica allows me to play kind of a vehicle heavy list.
Well, could you give me an example of what it does? Like, why does it give you like you play a vehicle list?
For instance, you'll love this. And yeah, and I specifically built a list with this in mind that I really, really wanted to play, but then I decided to explore it and maniple instead. There's a tech priest in there that you can give an enhancement to, and when a vehicle dies within 12 inches of them, he simply points at it and says auto explode.
Nice! Enemy or friendly or both?
Only friendly.
Okay, so basically you make your own vehicles explode.
Yeah.
Does that count for these walker things?
Yep.
So you push them far forward. Who cares if they die because you're just going to explode them in the
Well,
face?
Those ones are not great because they only do one wound.
I guess there's situational times where that would be really powerful.
Yeah, I did it more because I know that you want to see explosions, and that would have been fun to do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Data Psalm Conclave, as you can kind of see, I never really got into the Cult Mechanicus side of the Force. I don't have a bunch of the priests, so unfortunately I won't be playing that one. I do have a lot of Skitarii, and so there is one to make the Skitarii a little bit more survivable, and that's the Skitarii Hunter Cohort. That gives things outside of 12 inches, when they're targeted outside of 12, they have stealth and they have cover, but they're very light chassis. They're generally T3, they're generally 1 wound each. They're generally, they've got a 5-up invuln, but they're fairly light. So getting them into the danger zone, even with cover, there's enough in the game that can wound them fairly easily and just force a lot of rolls.
That makes sense.
So it's not fantastic. At least in my playstyle. If I had more kind of the infiltrators, then maybe somebody out there, if you had more infiltrators and some of the other better Skitarii units, you can probably make Skitarii Hunter Cohort sing. And then the last one, I think, is the Rad one, Rad Zone Core. So the Rad Zone Core has Rad Bombardment left. And I know that the internet kind of was very
They didn't like it
different. Yeah, a lot of people didn't like Rad Core. I thought it was kind of fun. Now what it does is when you bomb someone turn 1, they have the choice. They can either take mortal wounds or they can be battle shocked.
Yeah.
But now if you decide to take a battle shock, you could still take mortal wounds. It's just now on a 5-up instead of a 3-up.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah.
So,
So it's more guaranteed, more chances for mortal wounds, but not as guaranteed.
yeah,
Okay.
because this is the start of the battle round that happens, you will always get an opportunity to hit your opponent in their deployment zone, unless they've infiltrated out.
Great against something like Guard that wants to stay behind, or Tau that wants to make a castle. Yeah.
And at D3 mortal wounds, if all of a sudden you're spiking some of those rolls, you're taking out a 3-wound model. You're taking a vehicle down by 3 wounds because it affects everything.
I think what we're seeing with codexes, and we noticed this with the Space Marine Codex, the Tyranid Codex, the Necron Codex, which we did a review with Michael, and he was stating this, that there doesn't appear to be this like sudden glow up of everything from the Codex. There's like it's not that everything's much more powerful. It's a bit of side shifting, like some things are changing slightly how they do it, and there's more options and more ways to play it, but it doesn't seem to be this power creep, and that's hopeful that would be indicative of all the rest of the codexes to come out, and that hopefully would mean that we don't have a bunch of power creep as the codexes come out.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I think the Admech in particular, if you've gotten used to the Doctrina imperatives, they're still there. If you're used to the data sheets for the most part are unchanged. There's some, be careful, there's some slight changes here or there that you've got to be cautious of. But it allows you to continue playing if you're playing the indexes. But with the other detachments, you just have other playstyles, right? So if you want to run a lot of Skitarii, there's one detachment for you. If you want to run vehicles, there's the Cohort cybernetica. And if you want access just more damage output in terms of damage reliability with rerolls, there's the Explorator Maniple.
Awesome.
Right? So there's just options for you. More ways to just have fun with this army.
All right, so it sounds like you're finding some cool stratagems with it, some cool synergies, and I wish you luck with the Admech.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed that as well. Please check out the game when it comes out. Tak versus Michael coming out very soon. Necrons versus Admech.
Michael's always a great opponent. He's a lot of fun to play.
Yeah. And check out Michael's Codex reaction as well to see how the Necrons are performing for him and what he thinks of that. And until we see you next time, play on.
Play on.